One of the quietest habits that slowly destroys peace is overthinking. It doesn't crash into your life like failure. It doesn't announce itself like a problem. Instead, it quietly settles inside your mind and starts rewriting everything. A small mistake becomes a huge regret. A simple decision becomes a battlefield. And a future that hasn't even arrived yet starts feeling dangerous. What if I fail? What if they judge me? What if I am not enough? The mind begins to create problems faster than life can even deliver them. And slowly, without noticing, a person becomes stuck in thoughts instead of actions. But sometimes, the only way to understand this silent struggle is to see it in someone else's life. In a small mountain village surrounded by misty forests and cold winds, there lived a man named Adrien. He was a watchmaker. His workshop was small, but his reputation was not. People from nearby towns brought him their broken clocks, believing he could bring time itself back to life. And often he did. Tiny gears, delicate springs, shattered mechanisms. Adrien could repair what others called impossible. But inside him, something remained broken. His thoughts. Every morning he would sit at his wooden table, surrounded by clocks in different stages of repair. Some were half open, some untouched, some forgotten. And instead of working, he would think, what if I damage this rare piece? What if I make it worse instead of fixing it? What if the customer loses trust in me? What if I am no longer good enough? Hours would pass like this, and the more he thought, the less he acted. Time, ironically, was the one thing he couldn't manage inside his own mind. Days turned into weeks, work kept piling up, opportunities kept waiting and leaving. Adrien didn't realize it, but he was slowly becoming trapped, not by failure but by fear of failure. One morning, a young apprentice named Elias arrived at his workshop. Elias was different, not careless but free. He believed learning came from doing, not delaying. He watched Adrien hesitate again and again before starting even simple repairs. One afternoon, Elias picked up a broken clock from the table and opened it without asking. Adrien immediately stood up. Stop, what if you ruin it? Elias didn't panic, he didn't stop either. He simply said, Master, what if I fix it instead? That one sentence created silence in the room. Because Adrien had spent years asking only one type of question. What if something goes wrong? But Elias had just asked a question Adrien had forgotten existed. What if it goes right? That night, Adrien couldn't focus on anything. The question kept repeating in his mind. What if I fix it instead? The next day changed everything. A nobleman arrived at the workshop carrying an antique clock, old, rare, and extremely valuable. Many experts had already failed to repair it. Adrien looked at it and immediately felt pressure rise in his chest. His mind started racing again. What if I ruin something irreplaceable? What if I lose my reputation forever? For the first time in years, he didn't touch the clock at all. He stepped back. Elias watched quietly from the corner. No advice, no pressure, just silence. And somehow that silence felt heavier than fear itself. After a long moment, Elias placed the tools gently beside Adrien and said, Master, fear will always show you what could go wrong, but it will never show you what you are capable of. Something inside Adrien cracked, not broken but opened. Slowly he sat down. His hands were still shaking, his thoughts were still loud, but this time he didn't stand up again. He began. The room filled with silence, broken only by the faint sound of tools touching metal. Minutes turned into hours. Adrien made mistakes, he paused, he doubted himself. But he didn't stop. For once, he didn't let thoughts decide everything. And then, the clock came back to life. It was working. Adrien just sat there for a moment, unable to react, not because the repair was perfect, but because he had finally done what his mind always stopped him from doing. Acting despite fear. But overthinking, once learned, doesn't disappear overnight. Weeks later, during a village competition, Adrien faced another challenge. He had to repair a complex clock in front of everyone. The crowd was watching, pressure was high, his mind began again. What if I fail publicly? His hands froze. But this time, Elias spoke before fear could grow. Master, he said softly, your mind will always show you 10 endings, but your hands only need to create one. That was enough. Adrien began. Not perfectly, not fearlessly, but steadily. And for the first time, he didn't feel trapped by outcomes. He felt present. He completed the repair and won. That night, Adrien stood outside his workshop, looking at the mountains wrapped in moonlight. For years, he had believed his problem was lack of skill. But now he understood something deeper. It was never skill that stopped him. It was thinking too much before living at all. From that day, he built a simple habit. Whenever his mind created too many what ifs, he would pause and ask himself, is this thought helping me move forward or just holding me back? And slowly his life changed. Not because fear disappeared, but because it no longer made decisions for him. Because the truth is not complicated. Overthinking doesn't protect your life. It delays it. And sometimes the biggest opportunities are lost not because we failed, but because we thought too much before trying. And now ask yourself, how many moments of your life are still waiting while your mind is busy living situations that don't even exist?